had a pretty good week. As weeks go, this has been a pretty good week for me, I think. Just want to show you something. Just start off the screen, this stream, just because, you know, I had a pretty good week. I'll show you this because I wrote this last year, the beginning of last year. So I just want to give you a recap of what I wrote at the beginning of last year, and this was all to do with the Mueller indictments. This was on my book, Russiagate. This is what I said. Let's see how it holds up, shall we? A couple of years, you know, 18 months. Well, over 18 months since I started writing it, a year since it was published. What happens next? Will there be more indictments? This is the final chapter of the book in its entirety. There will almost certainly be more indictments to happen as Robert Mueller concludes his investigation into any Russian interference in the 2016 election. However, any talk of Donald Trump being indicted or impeached is just plain ludicrous. How's that statement holding up right now? First of all, the mere notion that Trump colluded with Putin to win the election is something straight out of a spy novel. Of course it is, despite the fact that FBI and almost every media outlet in the world have been digging into this matter and leaving no stone unturned. There is still no evidence that any collusion happened. So with this in mind, will it ever be proven that Trump colluded with Russia in order to win the 2016 election? The answer to that is no, absolutely not. The better question would be, will Donald Trump be charged with something else? To that, the chances are much, much higher of being yes. However, most people are of the opinion that Donald Trump has been involved in some shady dealings in the past with his real estate businesses. With this in mind, it's far more likely for Mueller to find financial irregularities in his history than any collusion with Russia. But this scenario has huge consequences. Huge consequences that... Sorry, I've cut the bottom of the book off. Huge consequences for which many screaming for Trump to be indicted and impeached on any charge whatsoever have not considered. If Trump was to be indicted on money laundering or some sort of financial charge, one has to ask the question of, where would that lead? If the FBI were to get Trump on any financial crimes, then surely they would have to go after the Clintons for something similar. Surely then the FBI would have to investigate Obama for bailing out Wall Street, then immediately start receiving $500,000 per speech to Wall Street when he left office. If that precedent was set, the FBI would surely open live investigations into half of Congress for similar actions. This is why there was never going to be a financial thing that would go after him. They'd never be able to get him on financial irregularities, despite what some people in lefty so-called independent media will have you believe. And on that note, why only concentrate on Trump and Russia? There is far more smoke coming out of his dealings with Saudi Arabia than any of Russia during the election campaigns. Trump set up 8 businesses in Saudi, then signed a $530 billion arms deal with the country as president. Look into that. Of course, the answer to that is Saudi Arabia is an ally, whereas Russia is not. All of this is why, although far more likely than any indictments over Trump colluding with Russia, it is still highly unlikely he will be prosecuted for any suspect financial dealings. How's that holding up right now? Others within his campaign, and indeed individuals who are not connected to Trump, may not be so lucky. There will probably be more indictments to come, other than the 19 we have seen already. There were. Well, that stood up the test of time, but nobody for any collusion, as I've pointed out in the last video I did on it. But Donald Trump is highly unlikely to be one of them. What next for the Democrats? And here's the point, and here's the thing that the media all miss, both in this country and in America, because let's face it, their job is to dumb people down and not give them the facts as to why their country and their democracy is so fucked up. Donald Trump by nature is a very divisive person. People either love him or hate him. You will be hard-pressed to find anybody with an ambiguous opinion of Donald Trump. The establishment media and DNC, in an attempt to divert attention away from how the DNC have essentially banded the middle and working class in America, have used the vitriol directed at Trump to further their policy of business as usual. Politics as usual. They have tapped into this hatred in an attempt to divert people's attention away from their own failings as a political party. It hasn't worked well enough, though. At least not as well as the DNC had hoped. In almost every special election since 2016, whenever there is what could be called a progressive running in the race, the progressive has won or done very well in. I think I would add that right now. And in many cases have achieved a huge swing in opinion from previous elections to do so. These progressives are not winning over the hearts and minds of the public by talking about Russia. They're doing it by talking about policies. You can certainly expect results like these to happen on a more frequent basis in the 2018 Democratic primaries and midterm elections. How's that statement holding up right now? With AOC and Ilhan Omar causing a ruckus in Congress. How's that statement looking right now? The reason why this is the case is because although many people think Donald Trump winning the election was the biggest political story in America in 2016, it wasn't. Despite what the cable news will tell you, the biggest political story to come out of 2016 was, in fact, Bernie Sanders. At the beginning of the DNC primary, Bernie Sanders had little name recognition, especially when considering his opponent, Hillary Clinton, was one of the best-known politicians on the entire planet. Despite this disadvantage, and despite the fact that Clinton was basically running the DNC during the primary campaign, and despite the fact that basically every major news network was dismissive of Sanders, he ran Clinton extremely close in the race, closing the gap between them down to just 4 points. And he did it all with campaign finance by an average donation of $27. Sanders was so close to one of the biggest political upsets in living memory because he talked about the subjects which the working and middle class cared about, the subjects which the DNC had abandoned in favour of a more centrist, corporate-friendly platform. Sanders talked about real issues the average voter faced. He spoke up against the rampant income inequality which has become such a huge problem, and he proposed policies which the American people so badly needed, such as Medicare for all, a living wage, an end to the drug wars, and free college tuition. Like him or not, Bernie Sanders speaks to the people that the DNC have left behind. And this is extremely troubling for the DNC. They can no longer rely on a platform of platitudes to garner votes, and one by one Democratic senators and representatives are walking away from the corporate and PAC money which the American voters despise. How's that doing right now, that statement, with all the people who have announced now their candidacy for the 2020 election? Are they all, swearing off PAC money, and corporate and PAC money? Are they all going towards, Medicare for all? Are they all going towards, the progressive options? They're all moving towards that way. This is where the energy is. They can no longer rely on a platform of platitudes to garner votes, and one by one Democratic senators and representatives are walking away from the corporate and PAC money which the American voters despise. Sanders started the political revolution in America in 2016. It is a revolution which is gaining momentum. By the way, Sanders always used to say, sounds like you're ready for a revolution. He never said he was going to lead it. I think he started it. Maybe he won't finish. Who knows? The people of America are fed up with politics as usual. They are fed up with their democracy being sold out to the highest bidder. And they are fed up of politicians who only care about re-election instead of what they could do for the people they represent while they are in power. And in the Russiagate story, it is just an attempt to draw as much attention away from this political revolution as possible in a desperate attempt to carry on with politics as usual. And I end the book with this quote: "Don't believe it. There's no evidence to back it up. Russiagate is an establishment lie." And there you have it. A dumbass like me can get it right a year ago. And basically, I got it right ever since the beginning. It's really simple. You look at facts, you look at evidence, and then you base your conclusions on that. So my book, I think, it stands up, I think, pretty well, considering I wrote it over a year ago, don't you think? How's your book holding up, Luke? How's your book holding up? You piece of shit. You piece of shit propagandist. You piece of shit lying propagandist. How's your book fucking holding up, eh? New York Times bestseller. New York Times bestseller. Luke, you going to offer everybody a fucking refund, are you piece of shit? For any of you who want to go and buy a copy of that piece of shit, go and look in your bookstore. Look in the fiction section, because that's where it fucking should be. Hashtag collusion propagandist. That's what he'll call me. Asshole. I got it right. All I've got is, that's his whole career is in journalism. He's been in journalism how long, and he's still fucking got it totally wrong. He made a fortune out of it. He doesn't care. And this is the people that the establishment in this country hoist up as the best journalists. Go fuck yourself, Harding, you piece of shit. Thanks for watching. Please make sure you're still subscribed and click the bell below for a notification of when I drop further videos. Also, click through to my website to find out ways which you can support me. I can't do this without your support, and I really appreciate it. Till next time, peace and take care.